Now, in 1995, a very unusual situation took place in Baltimore. Johns Hopkins University celebrated a year of study, faith and healing. Okay, faith and healing. And one of the professors at that time, who was a cardiologist for a priest named Father Pytel, and on the feast day of St. Faustina in 1995, and I happened to be there, and I gave a reflection during the day, but then I ended up being in a confessional for a number of hours. But during the 3 o'clock hour, the parishioners prayed for healing for Father Pytel through the intercession of St. Faustina, and he received the healing. Although initially the miracle, there was some question as to what it was, and the Holy See, based on one of the doctor's report, that possibly could be explained naturally in some 5% cases, but it turned out that he did not have the data correct. And when it was reviewed by another doctor, Dr. Fuster from New York, he said that Father Pytel's condition, heart condition, which is terrible, by the way. When I saw him in the back of a church in 1995 on this October 5th, he looks so weak. He looked like he was like basically knocking at death's door. But it turned out that he was born with congenital heart disease, so therefore he was naturally, you cannot heal something which you were born with, defect which you were born with. And so in 1999, November, Father Seraphim asked whether Dr. Fuster, who said that there's no way you can explain this healing in a natural way, he says, can you go to the Holy See, to the Sacred Congregation for the Causes of Saints, or is known today is known as Dicastery. And he said, well, I will be in Rome on the 19th of November. And would you believe is that was the only day that there's an annual meeting of the doctors who review miracles for the candidates for the honors of the altar. And so even though at the beginning when he said himself, they said, well, we already made the case. We don't have a miracle here. What else can you offer to us? And he says, well, very simply, and he prepared the case. And so it was the body of the medical doctors who reviewed those cases. They acknowledged and approved the second miracle, which was received by Father Pytel. And based on that miracle, Saint Faustina could have been raised to the honor of the altar as a saint, no longer as a blessed but saint. And it was also on this day, Cardinal Dziwisz called us here. He called Father Seraphim and he says, can you do something special for me? Can you do a survey on how many people are interested in celebrating Divine Mercy Sunday liturgically? And so we did that. Father Seraphim called Mother Angelica, and he said, I need to appear to you on Sunday night or Sunday Night Live. And he made an announcement throughout the whole world, through EWTN. And of course, we contacted all our apostolates, and we had, just like you, we had the Divine Mercy apostolates in different countries all over the place, and we asked them to do a survey for us. And by the way, within 2 weeks, I took 20,000 signatures from 19 countries, and so how quickly the word spread. And then the faxes and letters and everything else kept coming here to Stockbridge. I do not know how many millions of signatures came, because Father Serv would not allow anybody to count it, because we just took it and sent it directly to the Holy See. So this is November all the way to Divine Mercy Sunday. We kept on sending the petitions. And I do have to say is that when we went to Rome and we knew that St. Faustina will be canonized on Divine Mercy Sunday, we knew that. But regarding Divine Mercy Sunday, we did not know anything. So the night before the canonization, I was staying in the same room as Father Seraphim in a hotel nearby, near Vatican. And he was called by Cardinal Dziwisz, or at the time the papal secretary. He was called to the Vatican, and Dziwisz informed him that Holy Father, based on that survey, which he received millions, a small number of millions of signatures, I do not even know how many, requesting that the Divine Mercy would be celebrated in liturgy. And so Father Seraphim goes there and comes back around 10 o'clock p.m. I'm so much aware of that moment because I said, okay, so what's going on? So what did you do? How, what did Jewish wanted to share with you? And he says to me, he says, Kaz, he says, call each other Kaz, by first name. So we call Seraphim Kaz. He's Kaz. He says, you got to promise me that you will not say and reveal this to anyone, what I'm going to tell you today. And I says, I promise. He says, no, I mean it. Promise with a intention of truly embracing it. He says, and I said, yes, I do promise. May God will help me. And so he revealed to me. He says, tomorrow, when John Paul II will canonize Faustina, he also announced the Divine Mercy Sunday for the Universal Church. And so he said it, as you may know, Seraphim, I know John and Dave, you know him. He was very simple. He was never, there was not that much excitement in him. So I said, Seraphim, just tell me what you just told me. Did you just said what I thought you heard you say? And he said he read the same thing. And so I came to him and I took his shoulders and I shook him. He says, you got to do something, get excited or something, because we live for this moment, that we would wish to have Divine Mercy Sunday celebrated. And I kind of shook him. I felt like he was very skinny. I felt like I shook the bones out of him. But anyway, because I was so happy to hear that I couldn't sleep the night because I knew what was going to happen. I was waiting for everything. And so the next day, I was sleeping maybe an hour or two. I do not know how much. But anyway, we all got vested and we all were ready for the celebration. I was put in the back, near the where the altar is. And what happened to me is this is very interesting that I I was very excited, but we had 2 hours to wait. I didn't have to wait 2 hours. I waited a minute and a person came up and asked me to hear confessions. I heard confessions all the way from the people who were there. These are diplomatic corps people. These were the people from, various types of special guests, VIPs of Rome. And this is what I did. I heard confessions. So I didn't have a chance to think about anything until the moment mass began. So anyway, when I know I'm giving you a little extra story here, but the fact is there's, for us as Marians, but also for us, everyone, the announcement of Divine Mercy Sunday by St. John Paul II was extraordinary. But the way he phrased it in his document, he says, based upon the request of the many who wish to celebrate Divine Mercy in liturgy, I acquiesce to it. And I have to say that that's a fact. It was not a surprise. First of all, John Paul already, the Polish episcopate asked for it. So in 1994, it was celebrated already in Poland. Then the bishops of Russia asked for it. Then bishops of Philippines asked for it. So there's already 3 countries that celebrated Divine Mercy Sunday liturgy. But this was for the universal church, and John Paul needed documentation. He did not do something out of thin air. He based it on millions. And the reason I know that there were that many is because when I came back from Rome, Father Seraphim asked me to dispose of the additional requests. There was like each page had 50 lines, and so on each page you could have 100 names with addresses. So when he told me, when we came back, there was this huge box of these signatures. And since I was told not to look at it, but I only looked at 1 or 2 on the top. And there's one was fully 100, another one is about 75 or, maybe 50. And so I said, if I calculate based on the pages, I was a math major. I know math. So you know how it is, 500 pages is about this size, okay? Pages. So even if you have 500 pages, times 100, I'm not saying that it should be, but times 50, you already know that. But if you have the full box and it was like 8.5 by 11 side by side, and it was almost like 18 inches high, it was a big box. And I had to burn it. So I said, even those names alone, and as I said, I didn't check, but if we were to reduce everything to 50 per page, not 150, there will be a couple, there will be a couple million. Okay, so this is why I say the outpouring and the survey, the names kept coming even beyond that. But there were so many people who requested this celebration of Divine Mercy Sunday. So Joan and Dave, you said we should do something special on the 25th anniversary, is because of this, the outpouring of love for Divine Mercy Sunday, and for Divine Mercy, and Divine Mercy Sunday in particular, was manifested in those signatures. And we collected so many and sent everything to the Holy See.